So let's talk on the Cloud9 Insight journey. So we spoke at lunch, and I said to you, when there's only sort of 3 or 4 or 5 of you, it doesn't really almost feel like a proper company. But when you start getting bigger, like you have now, you've got a lot of responsibility. So talk me on those sort of 12 years, how you started growing a number of people, and what were some of the challenges?
Yeah, of course, it was definitely a challenge being remote in France, but I was definitely able to leverage all of the cloud technology that was about. And for us, I think that early on in our life, I leveraged the power of brand. And for me, that was our relationship with Microsoft. After all, we were we were almost like you could say like a franchise of Microsoft. And being remote, it was really important to sort of promote the good news, as it were. So we did a lot of work around that, which has definitely paid off. We have and continue to get a lot of leads from Microsoft, so that's a positive. We're partner managed, but it's important when you're working with Microsoft, for example, to be aligned with what their strategy is, what's important, and making sure that you're keeping up and preferably ahead of the game of where is the market going and what are the opportunities and how can you be best aligned to sort of work alongside that. For me, I think that I took a turning point when I took on my first salesperson. My core skill is sales, so releasing up a lot of my time, not to sort of just be doing sales, helped me work on more strategic things. And then I had this amazing woman come into my business and she said, "Hey, why are you doing the accounting and the HR and office management and everything else? Well, you need to hire somebody." And she knew exactly what my next hire was. And so sometimes actually, maybe if you can have a mentor or somebody who can sort of see the wood for the trees, because sometimes when you're buried deep in doing everything, it's not always clear what's my next best hire.
Yeah.
And for her, she saw that a lot of my time was being taken up with this, you might say, lower value add stuff of accounting and HR and all this stuff that I'd actually love to do. But she's right, it's not adding the best value, and I could hire somebody at quite a good sort of price to sort of take that away from me, even though I might have liked doing it. So I could focus on other things that were higher value things to work on. And then I've sort of, over the years, been able to bring in sort of, you could say we grew as a department and thought about a lot about our products and services and what the talent was that we needed to bring in to support our clients.
You mentioned there about strategy, and you before you started Cloud9, you did a bit of strategic advice. Now, when you start delegating these responsibilities of the job, maybe it's accountancy, sales, HR, whatever it is, you've obviously got a bit of time on your hands. How then do you look at the thing and think, actually, this is going to be a strategic plan to grow the business? Because most people don't get out of the woods of actually doing that. Certainly one of the challenges I've had in the past, I mentioned to you at lunch, was actually, I certainly wouldn't be calling myself a strategist, that's for sure, more of an executor. So how do you strategize and how do you actually plan for the future? Because you mentioned at lunchtime, you almost plan for being a bigger company already.
Yeah, I would say one of the things I did actually started doing probably about 4 years ago, maybe 5 years ago, is I got involved with a group. They're actually called Vistage Group, which is a global group of. Are you involved?
Yeah,
in that?
No, they're very much. It's like a group of CEOs. They meet once a month, isn't it?
Yeah, that's it. And they have amazing speakers, and the speakers are phenomenal, like world class speakers who sort of just have the most inspirational things to tell you about running a business that you can never find in a book, even probably. But they're just really important things that help you along the way. But on that journey, what it helped me see is I was very privileged. I got to work alongside in these meetings some phenomenal CEOs, and it just inspired me that, first of all, that they had challenges that I didn't, and that made me feel better about myself. That actually maybe I wasn't such a bad CEO or a business owner or entrepreneur. But of course that I would have had challenges that they didn't have and that they could help me with. And so it just made me feel more sort of whole, you could say, to know that actually I wasn't perfect and that was actually okay. It didn't mean there was going to be a limiting factor in my success. So I started to perhaps be even more ambitious because the people that I was surrounded with were amazing and what they had achieved was amazing and there was no ceiling. And so I sort of basically probably took some testosterone tablets and just dreamt big. And I've never felt a ceiling to what's possible. I think the ceiling is in our heads, and I think we just need sometimes to be surrounded by people who have similar beliefs. And I often joke that if you probably are, I didn't myself, but if you're somebody who went to a private school, then you might assume that you were going to get good grades and go to uni. Whereas actually, if you went to maybe a state school that was poor performing, you might not assume that you're necessarily even going to get good grades or necessarily that you're going to go to uni. So I think the same applies in life. That if you can surround yourself with ambitious people, then that definitely rubs off on you. And that's one of the things I love about being in the channel and going to events. And there's a lot of excitement about business growth, and they actually talk a lot about M&As, and I'm probably less interested in doing that right now because I love what I'm doing and I don't want to let it go. But I think there's a lot of energy that's infectious.
A few months ago, Carlene, you announced to the channel that you're saying goodbye to the traditional week, and you're going to roll out a 4-day working week, and rolling out the 9-day fortnight across the business. Now, I'm really interested in this because I've recently gone hybrid. I was totally office. I love the office, but I've gone hybrid myself, 3 days in, 2 days out. But I'm wondering how that's going for you. Now, is it great for attracting talent, or was it that the reason, or was it actually, do you know what, I actually believe that the 9-day fortnight is good for mental health, well-being of my staff, etc. Why did you do it?
I would point out, first of all, that I never intended to do it. It just sort of, I did a survey. I was actually looking at rolling out, giving all of my employees shares in the business. But I got a lot of advice, which is don't do that. After 2 months, they won't appreciate it. You don't, just use it more strategically to give it to the people you really sort of are knowing you're going to keep for the long term and you want to keep and they want to stay and all the rest. So, and I thought, oh, okay, I'll do this employee survey. And 60% of people came back and said, what about this 4-day week, Carlene? And I'm like, really? Oh, they've been watching LinkedIn too much.
Yeah, exactly.
So, but you can't ignore that level of, that's not one person. That was a lot of people who put that forward. And we did invite them to sort of give their ideas of what other benefits they would have liked. So I went home with my spreadsheet, loved a good spreadsheet, and I sort of did the maths and I sort of worked out the sort of what I was going to do. And my belief is that I have done quite a lot of research on the whole 4-day week thing. My belief is that globally, we will definitely move. Everybody will globally move to a 4-day week. I'm pretty sure of it. And so if I do it now, I get to write the rules. And I think that I think it can be a very good thing. I think that productivity, there's more of a spotlight on productivity. The UK have a very, compared to a lot of the European workforce, we're unproductive, relatively speaking. And I think there's a lot of hours in the day that we probably as a society and work waste, whether it's meetings that are too long, whether it's the banter that doesn't have to happen when there's distraction, or other things that maybe aren't even adding value to our customers that we're wasting time on. So I think there's a huge opportunity for increase in productivity in the business. And if you can ask your team to be more focused on really questioning, does it need to be an hour long or can it be a shorter meeting? And do you really need to be in this meeting? And just making sure we don't have this meeting culture, that you actually focus on what you're going to get done and what are you going to achieve, what are your results. And I have had bosses over the years who've been more focused on results and output than being seen in the office. And I think it's a really healthy thing. And so what I came up with was I didn't want people to have to work really long days. I've got people in the office who've got young kids. It's important, in my view, as a parent, for them to see their families, not to just work longer days, to have 1 day off so they can do the ironing or whatever. And so I felt that it was important to sort of only increase a little bit. So actually overall, over every week, people's hours have reduced on average from 37.5, which is a normal week, to 35.5 hours. So they work a half hour extra Monday to Thursday every day, on Monday to Thursday every week. And then every second Friday they have off. We call it a Fab Friday. So to do whatever they want. So effectively, I've gifted them 4 hours to have the whole day off. And then on the other Friday, I have introduced something called a Silk Day, which is strategy, innovation, learning, charity, and community. And for me, as a business owner, you could say a lot of business owners are bored of people saying, I didn't have time to work on that strategic project that's going to grow the business, or I didn't have time to learn this new skill that I need because the industry is changing, or whatever it might be. And that gets a bit boring when you hear that excuse a few times, I'm too busy. And I thought, my goodness, well, I'm going to have that problem even more in abundance if I don't give if I give everybody every Friday and they're going to be busier, sort of trying to get all their job done. So what I decided was I was going to take every second Friday was for me, for the company, and for them to work on their personal development, for learning to, if they find it rewarding to train others, that they get that chance. If they find it rewarding to get involved strategically in the business, and a lot of people do, to have a voice about what the business is doing and innovating, and or if they're more purpose driven and they want to be involved in charity and community work. And because we work with a lot of young people, a lot of us in the team love working with early in careers, maybe working with schools, or we support in our business a local homeless charity for young people. So getting involved in initiatives like that can be immensely rewarding, and I think people are looking for more purpose in their life, and and so this pilot's been running since early June, and we went live. We signed it off and we went live early October, and we're just writing up a report actually of our findings. And we did an employee engagement survey back in, I think it was May, and we did one again recently. And definitely the sort of the graphs of the feedback in terms of people strongly agreeing that they have a great work-life balance is fantastic. So you can just see it.
You've become a very popular boss, Carlene, haven't you? Fridays off, we don't do nothing. We do strategic reviews.
Yeah.
What happens when it goes wrong, though? For instance, if the market, I mean, I hope you don't mind me questioning this, but I think it sounds great.
Yeah.
Strategic this, wellness days, mental health days, I'm seeing on LinkedIn, I'm seeing every single day for a different reason all the time. It's day of the week for this, day of the week for that. Great PR spin, I think, and I'm not saying yours is, but what happens when the numbers go down, performance goes down, and people start taking advantage of it? What do you do? So
what I've done is it's this initiative, and designing it was probably the most mentally sort of challenging thing I've ever had to do. I enjoyed it, but it was definitely it was challenging. And so one of the things that we've decided to do is first of all, it's a benefit. So it's not a permanent contractual thing. And one of the things that I would recommend, if anyone's doing it, do it the same way. Have it as a benefit that can be withdrawn should you wish to. And I think the benefit of that is that people never take it for granted. The focus has to remain on productivity, because if the things that need to be done are not being done, you need to be able to pull the plug and go back. You definitely need to remind people why you're doing it. And for me, it's also about driving up productivity. You don't have to be seen to be present in an office. It's about making sure that you're doing the things that really matter and add value. And that really matters too. But at the end of the day, we're moving from people having what would have been, with bank holidays, 28 days off a year, to 69 plus, 69 or more days equivalent. And so that's definitely very, if you're a growing business like us and you want to attract and retain talent, you want to make sure that when they're in your business, they're performing, that they're motivated, and you need to stand out when you're attracting talent. And we've definitely noticed that we're getting huge amount of sort of candidates who are very excited by this initiative. And I'm hoping to inspire more business owners to consider it for their business, because it's genuinely been fantastic. And at a personal level, like I frankly love my Fridays.
Yeah, I bet. Well, I've gone hybrid now, and that felt a massive step. So you've heard it here, listeners. Robertson & Sumner won't be going to a 4-day working week as yet, but I think it's a great initiative, and I applaud you for sort of putting it forward, and it's obviously working.